Namaste everyone, and we are once again back with your channel Manage Better. Today's episode is very close to my heart. It is almost like I've been trying to live this life for some time of making the transition from being a quality manager or a quality management professional into operations or other spaces. And this is the story of many quality professionals across, and that's what we will try and tackle today. I have a fantastic guest who's made this transition. I am somebody who's not made the transition. So we will have a discussion and maybe a conversation around how we can help you. Today's guest is, of course, Sudhir Dhasmantrao. I will introduce him in a minute. But before that, those who've been able to join on LinkedIn, can you let me know if you can see me, hear me well? I can see that the YouTube feed is live. I can see that Sudhir's feed is live. So should be okay. No technical issues that I see, but there are always some surprises that we get. Okay, with that, yeah, some people have commented that the feed is live. So very good. Now, yeah, thank you, Vipul. Thank you, Manoj. Um, so without much ado, we will get into the talk today. Those who are new, of course, some may be new because some may be coming from Sudhir's feed. And my name is, of course, Anshuman Tiwari. If you are new to this channel, and on this channel, I try and bring practitioners, coaches, consultants, trainers, people who made a journey that inspires, and then they can help spread the message and come to this show and talk to all of us. During the 1 hour talk, a little less than 1 hour, we'll try and wrap it up earlier. You will have the opportunity to ask questions to me and, of course, to the guest, and we will do our best to include as many questions as we can. So, with that, let's get into the conversation. Today's guest is, of course, Sudhir Dhasmantrao, and he's currently Senior Director at and Head of Global Business Services for the APAC region with Boston Scientific. And he goes with a very interesting moniker called SPACE: Strategic, Passionate, Agile, Collaborative, and Execution Focused Individual. So you will see why he calls himself this. He is a global executive with almost 25 years professional experience now across global service or operations, transformation, earlier life in quality and project management, and so on, and has worked across multiple industries, including financial services, IT, insurance, banking, and a bit in manufacturing and consulting. Some of the companies that he has worked for include EY, HSBC, two companies where I have also worked. So both there is something common between us, and Max Life Insurance, Capital One Bank, and of course American Express or MX. He's through these companies he's handled large scale change management projects, and in terms of educational qualifications, he's completed his senior executive leadership program from Harvard Business School. His MBA in finance from Symbiosis, a BCom graduate, and other education qualifications include a course from IIM and ISB. Many accomplishments. Some of them include Indian Achievers Award for Business Leadership in 2022, Global Advisory Board member for world's largest share services network. He's a very very busy speaker. There is no conference in India and Asia which is around the shared services or GCC and those kind of topics, which does not have Sudhir as a speaker. Very active with the industry bodies, and like I said, highly sought after speaker. So let me add Sudhir to the stage. Sudhir ji, namaste. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Anshuman. I'm so excited today, spending this morning and thinking about this event and how well you manage better. Kudos to you for your persistency and the passion with which you really drive the audience, the passion you have to share your knowledge, the wealth of knowledge you bring. And I'm really delighted to be part of this show today.
No, and totally, Sudhir, it is generous generosity of people like you who agree to come on the talk show and give their time and share their lessons as well. And that's very important because sometimes as we grow in our career, and I include myself as well, because we don't realize that we have gained some experience that is useful to many others. um, Maybe that experience seems natural to us, or incidental, that okay, if you work for 25 years you will get some experience. Yes, but that experience could be very very useful for people who are 5, 10, 15 years into their career. And I get so many messages from people saying that, oh, I was thinking about this topic from a completely different point of view, and your guest made me change my thinking. And that keeps me going. And that's how we are on episode number 106 today, I think. So this started, I often joke that this started as in during just before COVID actually. So I can't blame COVID for this, but around that time, where I thought maybe 10 episodes will be okay. So we have almost done overdone 100 times, 100 more episodes, and the current schedule looks good for at least 125. So there we go. Okay. So the topic, of course, is close to both of our hearts, and we've both been in something similar of a journey, right? So you've more or less started your career in quality and related topics. I have started there, of course, and I've stayed there. You've moved on, and I wanted to actually bring you to this talk today, Sudhir, to discuss how you made the shift and how others can make the shift. So that's the summary of the talk. So we will need your stories, war stories, crime stories that you have. But essentially, the point is that we would love, I include the audience. And just to be clear, the audience is live today, and the show remains on YouTube and LinkedIn. So many people will watch it later on as well. So that's also an advantage. So I will have some questions, and then toward the end, we will take questions from the audience. If that's okay, then we can get started.
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. So I think main question, of course, Sudhir, remains that, and this is a question I get a lot of times. So I'm today asking you: is quality management as a profession, uh, and its practitioners, people like me and several others, is the profession struggling? And if it is, then why in your words? I mean, of course. So two parts: is the profession struggling, and if yes, then why?
Yeah, that's a million dollar question, Anshuman. It started for me as well when I was part of these quality roles, right? I think I would say quality will stay as long as the business is existing, right? It is only reinventing, reshaping in terms of how the business is looking at quality and the quality professionals. And yeah, I'll say the answer is yes and no in terms of some professionals are really doing well from a quality point of view. Some people are struggling. And I myself analyzed why people in quality professionals are struggling a bit. And broadly comes to my mind four reasons, which I addressed myself early in my career. And broadly, the four reasons are most of the time, um, people look at accumulating certificates, and I call it versus real experience. And a lot of people come in the quality role saying that I'm a black belt, I'm a Lean Six Sigma, green belt certifications and all. But if you check the real experience, that is always missing. So that is one area, right? People could, and give you some brilliant examples. Practically, I see a lot of people who are doing some CFO roles or CHR roles in some of the brilliant big companies. They don't have a chartered accountant qualification. People industry think that to become a CFO, you need to have a CA certification. Ideally, not. There are a lot of companies I can name where people who have business acumen, people who have a flair of numbers and understanding the connecting those numbers with business. They are also people who are, for the audience information, are also a CFOs. Similarly, CHROs doesn't need to come from a HR background. There are business leaders who are also playing the role who connects both the people and the business, right? And they are the people who are CHRs. Similarly, the new trend which I'm seeing is the CEOs. A lot of CFOs are becoming CEOs, right? Who understands both numbers and business. So the point I'm trying is it is all about not focusing on just what certification do I need to get next. A lot of quality professionals think that okay, now I did have a quality certification, I'll go for PMP certification. Some will say I need to get agile certification. By just accumulating certificates, it will not take you. Focus on getting the real experience. That is one important element. The second
So
important element is,
before you step further, I think, Sudhir,
yeah,
so for our audience, just to simplify your message also is that, and I've seen this as well because I've been more or less in the same space. Yeah, and initially I was guilty myself of acquiring some certificate, and then I realized that man, you know, it it is actually a distraction. You are investing so much
correct.
time into getting that certification properly, and you want to do a good job. Uh, that you realize that, and that time will come from somewhere. The time is finite. Everybody has the same
Yeah,
24 hours. So if you are giving a lot of time to one thing, you are not able to give some time to other things, which includes driving results at work. So
yeah,
that's the point I wanted to clarify, that you and I are not against certification, but we are against certainly, or we have an issue with people becoming obsessed with certifications and then they don't have outcome. So that was one.
yeah,
Dusra, second.
correct. The second element is the business orientation. Doesn't matter as a quality
Hmm.
professional, you're working in a manufacturing industry or a service industry or insurance sector, banking sector. Do you really understand the business? And that is also helps you really accelerate in terms of what you can contribute in the industry what you're working. So I don't see a
Hmm.
lot of people in quality professionals understanding the business elements, right? That is the second element. The third the reason is about they're really caught up into too much of tactical, the daily routine, right? They don't find time to really elevate themselves, right? They stick to quality role. Oh, these are 10 tasks I need to. They're very process oriented, right? And that is also sometimes a pro response to it, right? And the fourth important element is about developing new skills. Are they really becoming future ready? Are you investing your time in learning new things? And if you don't really put your structure to all these important elements, like every year you need to pick something or the new skill which you've not done in the past, and not being complacent and sitting comfortably in that role, right? You're getting 9 to 5 job, you're getting your monthly paycheck, you're happy and comfortable. You don't challenge inner self that I need to step out, right? These are the four broad elements why I see some of the quality professionals are really struggling, and companies are not seeing much value about the existence of those professionals.
I think there's one word that you used, of course, that quality professionals are struggling, and I see that a lot because I've more or less stayed in the profession, even though I've played different roles in and around the transformation roles and delivery excellence, but many of them are similar in nature, right? So, and we will dig a little deeper into that because this talk more is about our own profession.
Yeah,
So, what I also notice is that there is a significant reluctance sometimes I find, and I'll give you one example and maybe take your point of view on that. This is just to elaborate your 4 points into with an example. So, I know quite a few people, and no need to name them, that who are Six Sigma black belts or master black belts, and they were fantastic people 20 years ago, but they stayed there. They did not add anything. And my view is that if you want to stick to a profession, then you should be the world's 1% in that profession. Then maybe you can extend it by 10 more years or 15 more years. But if you are not in that bracket, then this space becomes narrower and narrower and narrower, and then you are edged out. Have you also seen something similar, maybe not Six Sigma or any other thing related to quality, like ISO certification or something, where people keep doing the same thing for 20, 25 years and then find that they have missed the bus?
there are many examples, as you rightly mentioned, Anshuman. I've seen people. I think what people forget is that life is not just career, right? So if you have to look at career as a timeline of what you want to do in life, and this is the realization happened when people reach around 40, 45 years, doing that 20, 25 years of career in just one role, and then realizing that, wow, when I look back, everything has changed, but I didn't change myself, right? And that is the question mark and dilemma which people in various sectors and organizations struggling with the mid-career crisis. That is exactly what it is, where they have not evolved themselves, they have not transformed themselves by taking up different roles. I've seen met professionals who are just doing like ISO certification. They go to companies, do certifications. They're really good at it, but the business requirement and ask have changed. So are you really making yourself relevant what the business is looking? Because in last 20 years, the way the kind of work what we do now is so different from what we started the work itself. So the work itself is changing, the business models are changing, it is fast paced because the technology is changing. So there are these aspects where people now realize, and it is late. So people who are at an early stage of their career, they should take this as a lesson and say that can I really challenge myself to keep on learning new and make myself relevant for the future.
I think that's the core point, and that's the core message of your 4 points as well. That the world will keep changing, and if we don't adapt and change in time,
Yeah,
then of
yeah,
course we will be left behind. And then there is no point crying that um, the management does not look at Six Sigma the same way as it used to look 25 years ago, and so on. And I hear that a lot,
yeah,
not only from the teams that I have managed, but also I go to some events like you go to, and competitions where we are sitting as a judge or something for some contest, and people don't realize that the world has significantly changed. But I'm glad you've been very candid upfront, and I wanted this talk to be a little bit more harsh. And if anybody listening to it today thinks that both Sudhir and I are harsh and rude and difficult and not very friendly, because we want you to listen and understand and make changes while you can. Sudhir has made some changes. I have made some, but not enough. So we want to share our experience. We are both at a stage in our career where we think that we can and we should share our experience. So it is in that spirit. So if you're whether you are watching now live or later on, we are not being rude on purpose. It is just that the topic is such that we have to be crystal clear and a little bit harsh at times. So we will what we will do is that and I actually wanted to ask you about your own journey, but there's a fantastic question. But let me ask that question, because then the question that somebody has asked, Rishabh has asked, will make a lot of sense. So you've made, for after might be about 20 odd years and maybe a little less plus minus in quality and related fields, you made a shift into or transition, I would say, into GCC operations and those kind of business roles. And you said it earlier that this was a conscious choice. So tell us a little bit about more the conscious choice and how did it happen? How did you manage it? So that's over to you.
yeah. So Anshuman, if you, I mean, just for the people who are listening, actually I'm a finance guy, so that's where I started my journey. I'm MBA finance. I worked MX in banking in the finance role, but eventually I developed the new skill of quality, and that's where I got first time I learned about Six Sigma while I was working with American Express, where they put employees for that Six Sigma training, and that really excited me. I thought that, wow, it's beyond numbers. There is always a skill of learning new processes, new skills. So the Six Sigma really helped me in terms of lot more enriching the way I operated these operations, the finance processes. So that is when I transitioned from a finance professional to getting certification and then doing the role in various companies. So the transformation journey didn't happen just by getting a role, right? I was preparing myself saying that, okay, this finance is good enough. I had to do something different. Then quality excited me. Then the PMP certification. and then the transformation roles. So I was leading transformation roles. For me to lead a transformation role, one thing people have to remember is you have to individually transform yourself first. You need to equip with the skill and the knowledge to really lead as a transformation leader. So you adding a skill on top of what you the base what you created, the finance base, and build on your transaction skills and transformation skills. That is when helped me becoming start enriching myself into a business leader. So now as a business leader or GCC leader, I operate multiple functions under me. Right from supply chain, HR, procurement, finance, or various functions. So that I was able to do because you need to understand how you're connecting with the business. And early in my career, right, whether you are a quality professional, whether you are a HR professional, whether you're a finance professional, always people talk about, I don't get the seat at the table. Business doesn't involve me in their meetings. This is a constant complaint I hear. And I don't
Yeah.
get the growth in this company. I don't get elevated. I will tell you whether you are a quality professional or whether you are a HR professional or a finance professional, you're doing a business partner role. This basically these are enabling functions, we call it, right? If you want to really be successful enabling function roles, one thing you need to elevate, I call it there are three levels of that business partnering. When you're looking at getting a seat at the table, most of the people will be at the first level. The level one, I
Hmm.
call it following the conversation. So when people are inviting you as a quality professional to those business meetings, you sit in the room, quietly listen, you follow the broadly, you'll follow what they're saying, what they're discussing. That is level one. You need to now elevate from a level one of following conversation to the next level, which is contributing to the conversation. Then, if people see you in the second level, which is a contributing to the conversation, when you're invited to the business meetings, that is when people will say, okay, this person, whosoever play role they're playing, makes sense to be part of this meeting, business meeting. And the fourth level, that is where you will transform to a leader role, which is leading the conversation. And that is the tough
Hmm.
part. So, how do you elevate yourself from a following conversation to a contributing to the
To
conversation and leading the conversation? That is when the business leaders will give you the rein saying that, yes, this is the person I need in the organization, in my leadership. And you don't need to ask for the seat at the table. They will be wanting you and will challenge you and want you to be in that seat. So you need to elevate yourself as a professional, irrespective of a role you are playing. And you know that in organization there are multiple meetings happens at multiple levels, and we have been part of those meetings. But if you see in that meeting room, you will see very few people contributing to it or leading those
hmm.
conversations. If you have to have an aspiration of becoming a leader, you need to know how to lead those conversations. You need to know how to navigate those conversations. You need to know how innovative you are and creative in taking the point or influencing those audience in this. So there are a lot of skills. It is not just one skill of I'm a HR professional or quality professional will take you to leadership roles or business roles. You need to develop the skills of the navigating skills and the influencing skills. And those skills are these three steps, and individually you can really assess in every meeting in every company. You can assess where you are in these three levels. Are you at a level one, which is you are just even following the conversations? Are you at a level two, which you are contributing to the conversations actively
Contributing.
and driving the projects? And third, leading. So that is how I figured out in terms of if I need to move my journey, realizing just a quality work or a quality professional will not take me to the leadership role. I started contributing to elevate myself in those levels, and that helped me now reach as a GCC leader or business leader to drive large teams and large operations.
No, and this is fascinating actually, Sudhir, the way you said or distinguish between following, contributing, and leading. And I was trying to visualize that at various stages in my own career, where was I, and I can now also see, and most of the time, depending on the priority, of course, we will be in the contributing one once you are a little senior, but many are still in following as well, right? So
Correct.
I know a lot of senior leaders who prefer somebody else to take that decision or lead the conversation and so on. So yeah, fascinatingly true. I also explained the same concept, and just I'll steal some time from your talk. But is that, at least most middle and especially mid senior people should be bilingual, if not more. So they should be able to understand and use the language of money above them, and use the language of tasks below them. So if they can break the conversation into tasks, and then their team can perform, and above them, they have to use the language of money only. So any manager who wants to grow a little senior, if they can't talk the language of money or tangible benefits, then it is going to be very, very difficult to break into uh, senior roles. And I get some
Yeah,
criticism of this, Sudhir, sometimes, that this is okay, very true in maybe some business organization, and I tell them that it is true in hospitals, it is true in universities, it is true everywhere you go. If you can't speak the language of money, you will not rise to the top. Now, whether you call it being money minded, whether you call it anything else, whatever names you want to call it, if your ambition is to rise to the top, then you have to understand the language of money. It doesn't mean that you become a CFO or financial professional, but at least you should understand that eventually the language of money is extremely important. I'm
yeah,
already loving this, Sudhir. Thank you so much for triggering so many thoughts, and also for sharing your journey and how you made the transition. And the few people I know who made this transition from quality space like you have done, more or less their journey is similar, right? So there is a pattern that we can see, that once you've been in this space, you can make that journey across. Of course, there will be some risks and all that we will see. But before we get there, I'll take one question from the audience. This is slightly, it's in our space, but slightly unrelated to the topic today. So Rishabh is asking how crucial is a transformational journey for quality professional people like you and me, when so many technological changes are coming up with, of course, today everybody talks about Gen AI and all, Internet of Things, cloud computing, and cybersecurity, etc. Right? So all new technologies. How
yeah.
crucial is the adaptability of quality professionals to embrace these new age or edge technologies? Important question. Uh, if you, I mean, have
Yeah,
some views on
my
this.
view on this is, Rishabh, and for everyone, this is relevant for every professional now. So don't say that it is only for quality or non-quality professionals. Now the world is becoming more technology-driven driving world, right? So in few years back it was RPA, now it is Gen AI. Something else will keep coming in. So gone are the days where we'll say that whether you're a finance professional, quality professional, HR professional, irrespective of the profession you are, you need to have equalization to the technology. You need to understand technology. May not be at a coding level, at that level of detail. If you want to be a business leader or a leadership roles, you need to understand what technology can do for the business. And lot of people in IT and other companies, they're investing their time in learning these technologies. And the biggest part of the challenge, I would say, for the business leaders and for everyone in the profession is, with so much of learning happening, people are struggling also to applying these technologies. So, for example, if you are talking about Gen AI or any other technology, the applicability of that, the what has to be automated is a big question mark. So, if you're a quality professional, if you can master the art of application of these technologies, you will be the king in the business. People will want you in every meeting or every project, because it is all about the not about knowing these new technologies, but also using those new technologies. How are you really converting into actionables and the impact what you're creating? So it is this technology is applicable for every professional. It's nothing to do with whether you're a quality professional or not quality professional. And that is where I tell people in the business, as a business leader, there are three important things to drive transformation. In that driving of transformation, two are critical things. One is talent and technology. And if you want to drive transformation in an organization, the talent and technology are the tracks. Like the bullet train, if you want to drive a transformation of a bullet train, the analogy I give is The two tracks on which the transformation engine will run is people, which is talent, I call it, and technology. If you don't know as a leader, as a professional, how to leverage both talent and the technology, you can never drive a transformation, right? And the connector between, and you all as a quality professional, you understand very well, the connector between the two tracks, right? There is the tracks, there is always a connector in between, is the policies. So in an organization, if you are driving a transformation, the two tracks, which is the talent and the technology, there is a policies track, the connector.
Correct.
So people who understand this holistic are the people who will able to run businesses successfully. So it is not about just learning a new technology. Today it will come, you learn what next. Again, you'll ask the question, right? So my recommendation is you need to develop the talent, which is the soft skills, and the technology awareness, and then bringing them together is the magic of how transformation happens. That is how I define in terms of how one should look at of these two tracks for it running an efficient transformation engine.
No, this is fascinating. And Rishabh, firstly, of course, I hope you have some response to your question. And in a way, Rishabh's question actually included the answer, because I think it is more a reminder to all of us than a question
Yeah.
that these, and he's building on what you said earlier, that adaptability, learning new skills is all very important. I sometimes share my own example that for after many years in the Baldrige framework, earlier in ISO, then Six Sigma, I then moved to deploy Baldrige kind of frameworks in organizations. And then when the time came, I took an operations quality role and kept moving, then took a more, global Six Sigma or process improvement kind of role, and so on. And at some point moved into automation as well for about 2 3 years, more than that. And so, not to say that this is the trajectory that everyone should have, but only to share that many of us who seem to be in some position of as head of quality or head of business, like Sudhir is, or head of transformation, have reached there because we have gathered multiple experiences in same or similar domains. And that is an important aspect that many people miss out on. Only having the ambition and working very hard is not adequate. That is adequate to keep your same job. But to move to the next job, much more is needed. So, thanks, Sudhir, of course, for a fantastic insight into this area. And this is again a reminder that uh, you can, those who are particularly on LinkedIn, if you have a question, you can share your question in the same chat window that you see on the page, or you can DM me your question if for some reason you are unable to post or something. And those who are on YouTube can also do the same, post it on YouTube, and I'll pick it up. We are midway in the session, so it is about time to uh, do that. Okay, so now you made this transition from quality to transformation and then to operations. Were there any challenges, Sudhir, that you saw, as anything that we can learn from the challenges that you saw, or it was fairly easy, or how do you think so? Hmm?
Yeah, there are always challenges. Any
Hmm.
role, any shift we are changing, right? And a lot of people also ask this question to me: what is the right time to change, as well, right, from a quality to transformation of business? These are questions keep on coming, right? So
Hmm.
I think I always tell people that there is nothing like a right time. And to explain this, I usually tell a story, and that might
Hmm.
interest audience as well. The story, I don't know whether people might have heard the story or not. Um, the story goes like this, right? On a fine, winter morning, outside a house, a person puts the water for boiling. Um, and while the water started just boiling, a frog jumps into the water. So it is very, winter, so it's cold. So the frog jumps into the water and feels very nice and cozy. And the frog stays for some time, right? Because she's feeling good, it's feeling good about being in that water. And what happens is that as the water is heating up, the frog also feels a little bit uncomfortable, right? It's hitting the heat as the water is boiling. And what the frog decides is to pull the strength and stays for much more time, still in the water, pulls that energy and continue to stay in the water. And as the water reaches its boiling point, the frog eventually tries to jump out of the water, but it couldn't jump out of the water. And eventually, because it's exhausted all the energy before, um, and eventually the frog dies. The question is always, who killed the frog? Is the person boiling the water kill the frog, or is the hot water kill the frog? And this is a question we all need to ask, right? When you're making the shifts of changing, whether you're jumping in the water or want to come out of the water, it is about the timing. And we as a professionals or individuals, one of the critical aspect of a skill we all need to develop is the decision making. And lack of this timely decision making is when, whether in our personal lives or our professional lives, we always repent. Oh, I wish I could have made this decision 5 years back or 10 years back. And it is very, very common. And when you are in a business leader roles, primary role for you is to make decisions. So if you don't develop that skill and the timing, and timing is never right, there is nothing like a right time. So for me, I always jumped when the opportunity came in. I never thought whether will I be successful or not, and only motive and the passion. That is the reason I always call myself as a space where I was always strategic, very passionate, not worried about whether I'm going to succeed in that role or not. I want to take a risk, and I've taken bigger risks where I've jumped into the roles which I've not done before. And I never changed jobs because of money. Money came through the value which I started delivering and value which I created myself. And that is how, in terms of one have to really look at the passion, the agility, what you bring in, the collaborative leverage, the whole relationship leverage which you bring in, and the execution focus. And that's what I'm so passionate about the word space. And that is how the decision making skills, right? When I was moving from a quality when I moved from a quality role to a quality role, I was a finance professional. I was not an expert, but I took a plunge to get that role. And similar thing I did from a quality role to a transformation role. So I took a plunge. I said, look, let me learn. I might make mistakes, but that will strengthen my confidence or learning. Similarly, as a business leader, so you need to keep on challenging yourself at a timely basis and regular intervals, not being comfortable. When you feel comfortable, and this is the other advice I give, Anshuman, to a lot of people is, usually people try to change the job when they are upset with their customer, or when they're upset with their boss, or when they're upset with something happening. Then they realize, no, 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 it is 5 years, 2 years, I want to change job. And then they start searching for jobs. Eventually, you don't need to search for jobs. Jobs will come to you when you create a aha movement, create the impact of the place where you're working. People will come. I never search for jobs. People came to me, and I was lucky that way. But all at the point, what I'm driving is, if you are really comfortable in that position, move out. Stay that this is enough. I'm ready to take a challenge. And that is exactly worked out me. I mean, it doesn't mean that it worked out for me, it works for others. Similarly, it didn't work for someone else, it may not work for you. There is nothing like that. So it's up to us in terms of what is the risk-taking ability we are building, both personally as professional, and what is the passion which you want to deliver and work and make an impact. Every organization you work and leave, people should remember you for one important project which you delivered, whether you are there in in that company or not. That is how I build my brand. Every company I worked, people know what I created in the company. People exactly know. I don't need to tell. So that is the impact you need to create. Doesn't matter whether you're a quality professional or what kind of, these are titles which are human created titles, right? We created those titles. So one have to be really, don't run behind titles. The other advice I give is, don't run behind titles. Run behind the role, which will help you learn and grow, right? So that will be, my answer in terms of how you look at the timing. And there will be challenges. Nothing is easy in anything we do. So accept that, and then push yourself. and seek help. This would be my advice.
This last 5 minutes was a golden or whatever masterclass, and I keep saying that since I've done more than 100 of these talk shows, Sudhir. In every talk show, there is that one 5 minute moment, sometimes even lesser, 2 3 minute moment that makes the whole thing worthwhile. So we just had the most worthwhile moment, and
Thank you.
this is why, of course, and thank you for sharing the journey as well, because unless we share candidly and honestly, there is no value in how will people learn from it, right? So if
Yeah.
100 people are joining today and 500 people will watch this tomorrow, and maybe many more will watch it over the next 1 year or so, they will derive value only if we have been able to share uh, very candidly, and thanks for doing that. But what I also say, and I've seen, of course, we are in the same space and been in the same space, so I've seen, and you were with HSBC and EY, and I've been there as well. So
Yeah.
there is a little bit of a, I've been following you kind of thing, but yeah, this makes a lot of sense that don't always chase. Of course, depending on individual circumstances, some people might want to chase money, which is fine, but don't do it all the time, right? So that is very important. Don't, and at least sometimes look for a better role. I did that, and many people ask me that, throughout my career, quality career, what is the most or memorable role and so on. And I always go back to the first role I had, which was first major role after my MBA, which was with Kimpro consultants under Mr. Suresh Lula from 98 to 2006. Those 8 years, golden years.
Yeah.
Of course, not that I have not enjoyed the roles after that. I have, but I'm so glad I made that choice. It was a difficult choice. Smaller company, boutique consulting firm. I had the option of going to bigger names in campus recruitment and all that. I chose not to appear for any campus recruitment and only appeared for this one company. Of course, now it seems a little foolish and slightly, filmy, but but at that time, that's what it is. Okay, let's take one question which has come. There are some questions, Sudhir, which are similar, so I'm just taking the more representative ones. So
Yeah.
this is slightly unique question. I have question around, even if this is Jitendra Mishra. Even if we switch jobs, we are expected to deliver from day one, which is sometimes overwhelming. How to overcome such a situation? Anything for Jitendra, Sudhir, from your experience?
Yeah. I think my suggestion is that it is always important to have the ability to have a very um, nice conversation with the manager. So the boss, whether it is day one or day two or day five, doesn't matter. If you are unable to have that conversation, and having a conversation is also a skill. People don't
Hmm.
really underestimate that. So you need to really sit with your manager and say, I'm day one. What are the priorities you want me to really focus on? Like, we all are human beings. We need to have that time, and the time is same for everyone, the limited time. So I would always urge the people that when you're joining a new company or a new role, you're taking up a new role within the same company, the first thing you have to do is sit with the manager and say, what are the deliverables in first 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? Because when you join a new company, people are watching you. Everyone is watching you. And that's
Hmm.
how you build your credibility in first 90 days or first 30 days, right? So there might be a lot of passion. You want to do a lot of things. You're really excited joining the role. But the first thing and foremost thing you have to do is have a structure to what you really need to have and the expectations set clearly from your manager. And that is when is very, very important. And this is applicable not only when you're in day one, it goes every time you are delivering something in an organization. So I would suggest that have that open conversation and keep the expectations very clear and also understand why it is a priority. Sometimes they say that this is a priority, right? So you can always have ask. People hesitate to ask questions to the manager. I don't know why. So you have to bold enough to ask these questions to understand, not to challenge. So there are two different ways, and that is a skill, right? When you're asking a person a question, are you asking genuinely to understand, or are you really challenging? So if you also have to challenge a manager, that is again a skill of communication. How do you challenge the manager? So that is where the soft skills comes into play, and people undermine those soft skills. People learn quickly the technical skills, whether it is a quality or technology, that is easy to learn, right? If you have a good IQ, you will learn it. What people don't really put efforts, and I'm calling word highlighting efforts. Effort goes high to develop your EQ, right? Higher than the IQ, because if you write something for 10 times, you'll remember, or 20
Hmm.
times someone will remember. That is tactical piece. You'll get it. But the emotional piece is where, how do you really put your tone, conversation style, the way you use the words to ask and challenge someone. These are very niche things, but they're very, very important things to really succeed in the professional career. I hope I answered your
So,
question.
no, no, totally. I think Jitendra, so you got some answer, and I wanted to add a little bit, Sudhir, to Jitendra's point as well. Um it's not that everybody expects you to deliver from day one. I think that is too much pressure you are taking on yourself, Jiten. This is not really true. Even people who are hiring you know that day one it is difficult. They might expect you to deliver from day one for some very basic tasks that you already know, depending on your expertise area. So suppose you are in accounting and all, and you are given charge of that department. So some basics don't need acclimatization because they're standard. Same way in our profession, like in the quality profession, also there are some very basic things that you should be able to do from day one. But any advanced tasks, nobody really expects you to do from day one. And like Sudhir
Yeah,
said, if you have a candid, clear conversation, that boss, tell me what do you want in some order in the first 30 days, 90 days, whatever. And obviously, the manager will also get the message that you can't ask for the moon every 30 days. And if unfortunately you get into that kind of situation, maybe it is time to quickly get out also. Because such a manager will not change in the next month or so, and it will be a very difficult life. So my advice as a career coach will be that if you land in a situation where you get this kind of unreal expectations every now and then maybe to cut your losses and move on, kind of thing in that sense. Some more questions coming in. Jitendra is saying thank you. You are welcome, Jitendra. Good question. There is a comment from a LinkedIn user, but I checked this name is not appearing, but the person's name is Moon. So thank you, Moon. This is more a reiteration, and he's thanking you for the the examples that you gave, and particularly the frog story. So thank you very much. I could see one question from our common friend, Murthy SN, and unfortunately, I'm not able to share it on the screen, but because I can't find it in the comment, but it is there on LinkedIn. So, of course, he's saying that I and Sudhir worked in the trenches as peers in EY on several projects. We had some great moments. My question to Sudhir. So, Murthy's question is, as an enabling leader who became a business leader, how do you view and enable support functions? How do you position them within the org differently? And any innovative way you have helped them add value to their above their expected roles. So now that
yeah.
you are more in a business role, how do you see um, other roles, corporate roles or support function roles? Good question. Interesting one.
Yeah, the way I do now is that, because I also have the quality teams and the support function teams, which enable me. So, as a leader, I know doing those roles. So, I always first make them inclusive as part of my leadership group, right? Along with my leaders, I involve them, and I give them seat at the table. Now, same role everyone will leverage differently, right? I have seen the HR business partners leveraging that opportunity differently. I've seen the quality leaders or transformation leaders utilizing that opportunity differently, right? Use me in the right way to influence and push the change and give and be the backup, right? Because there is always a fight between the service delivery leader and the transformation leader. The priorities are different. So I give them, common goals. If you succeed, both of them succeed in the project, or both of them fail in the project. So I changed my approach, knowing those challenges, what I've seen on both the sides. So I give people opportunity, one, make them part of my leadership group, and then put them in common goals, where they come together and collaborate. Sometimes what happens is, as a human beings, we also develop liking and disliking for others. Nothing personal, but somehow the wavelength doesn't match, or some said in the meeting you didn't like. And these are also the people dynamics. And even though sometimes I give seat at the table, that people doesn't take initiative to leverage on that, right? And that is where also I see some people struggling. And sometimes it doesn't need to make friends with everyone in our nation, but you need to deliver eventually. So if the results are coming, and whatever approach you're taking, right, whether you're making good friends of the service delivery leaders or business leaders, or you're still able to deliver irrespective of their making their part of your good friends or not. But what the approach I changed is, one, giving them the opportunity and seat at the table, giving them bigger accountabilities to drive and lead. And those are the few things which I do. I involve them in the strategy meetings. I give them opportunities to drive large transformation projects. So these are the things which I started encouraging the teams, and be a coach to them as well, because I've seen both the worlds. I know where exactly they're struggling, what the stakeholders are talking about them. That is a big piece. The stakeholder management is a big piece. So how are stakeholders talking to about you as a transformation leader or a quality leader? And those insights and transparently sharing will really help for these professionals.
Really well said, and good question, Murthy. Thank you. We are in the last few minutes, 5 minutes of the talk show, Sudhir. We didn't realize that it's almost 1 hour. So thank you for that. And I just wanted to share something that a audience member has shared. Sarabjit Mukherjee. There is no wrong timing in deciding the right timing. I think this was shared earlier when you were sharing your story. So very well put, Sarabjit. Thank you very much. But one quick question, and then we can start concluding, Sudhir. That learning from all your experience, what you have seen uh, in your own journey, and so on, how can you or what can you give as guidance to youngsters or relative youngsters, younger to us, on how they can make this switch, or at least how they should get ready for this switch? Let me put it that way. Not everybody may need this switch, but how can they get ready for the switch? And then we can conclude the show today.
That's a very good question, Anshuman. I think, given the world, the biggest challenge for everyone, whether you're a student or initial career or a mid career or senior career, one thing is happening right now is the distractions. So, and the distractions is coming from everywhere. There is a technological distraction. There is a people distracting people in office. I call it politics in a very shrewd word. There are people who are distracted by the business. There are a lot of distractions happening, right? Social media is a big distraction if you don't know how to use social media. So everywhere, whether you're at the beginning of the career, or the mid of the career, or the fag end of the career, one thing everyone have to learn is managing these distractions. If we really don't manage our distractions, that will be disruptive for us. So it will disrupt us. That's the skill one have to really work on. So how do you really manage your distractions so that you're not disrupted, right? Now, I have defined like four critical aspects, um, in terms of how I manage these distractions myself, right? I'm sharing from my example, so that it might help you. And everyone has a different ways to get out of these distractions, in their own way. So I'm not saying my way is the only right way, but I'm just sharing what I usually do to come out of these distractions. And to come out of the distractions, first thing is a focus. We all know that we have to focus. The way I focus is on four critical pillars. I call it four critical pillars. One is, again, this will apply to everyone, whether you're a student or a professional or whatever it is, or a business. So, first thing is always focus on outcomes, right? You need to deliver outcomes. Don't focus on task. Don't tell that I work 10 hours, 15 hours, 20 hours. That doesn't matter. The quality at which you are able to deliver on the outcomes is first key element. Second important element of the pillar, I call it, is innovative. You have to be innovative, you have to be creative. The smartest person will always shine by executing in smarter ways and delivering smarter ways. So there will be always business challenges. You need to be smarter than, you need to be innovative, you need to be creative. Always don't go with problems. In an organization, I have seen lot of people are problem oriented, some people are solution oriented. So people who are solution oriented are the people who are innovators. They don't sit on the problems and think about the problems. They always focus on solutions. What has happened, whether in your control or not in your control, doesn't matter. Focus on the element of that critical piece of innovative thinking. The third element, which I call it, is the learning. And that's how I spend a lot of my time learning myself, reading books, reading different things, hearing out other podcasts, hearing from other learners, other leaders, right? I'm still a student in my life, learning as a continuous learning. And that is what, as when it comes to learning, my fundamental philosophy is life is a continuous learning, keep learning continuous. That is the quote which I wrote, and I stick to it for true. Life is a continuous learning, keep learning continuous. Remember that in your life. So that is the third pillar. The fourth pillar, for whether within the company or outside company, if you want to make switches, relationships are the key. Don't undermine the networking. People go to a lot of conferences. Networking is not changing your visiting cards. Networking is not just saying shaking hands and doing this. Networking is itself is a big subject, right? It's a relationship building, both internally as well as externally. So if you can really focus on those four pillars, right, whether within the organization or if you have to switch a job, you will certainly be successful because you mastered the art of driving results through outcomes. You mastered the art of solutioning. You are the master of learning, and you are a learner, and you have a good relationship. So people will come to support you if you struggle. So these would be my, kind of a concluding comments or thoughts in terms of how I see it and how it really enriched my career and my life in terms of how you balance across these four pillars. So that would be kind of my
Yeah,
response to what you are asked, Anshuman.
it was fascinating, and in the last, I think we have now had two golden moments in the talk show, and this sometimes happens because you have practical experience, Sudhir, and that's why I try and bring people who have a good mix of practical experience. And I think I must compliment you. You have the gift of um, packaging the experience very well. So right from
Thank
your
you.
acronym of space, and then the everything has some three or four key things, which is easy to remember. Nobody's saying that the content,
Yeah.
of course, you must have the content before you package, but in this world of easier consumption packets, so you are able to deliver it in good packets. Okay, 1 minute answer only. What are the books that you are reading today or these days?
Yeah. So there is a book which I'm really passionate. I think I don't know if I can show people can read or capture. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, this is
I'll
the book,
make you
guys.
full screen so all the
Yeah,
leader
this
you
is the
can
book.
be.
This is a wonderful book where executive presence is one of the big piece. So a lot of leaders grow in that position, but they struggle in terms of the executive presence. So read this book.
Presence.
This is
Yeah.
what I'm reading now. A fantastic book, um, and it will really help you. Right? It is not, again, I keep on telling people that don't say that I want to become a director, I want to become a senior, I want to be VP, managing director. These are titles. If you don't create your executive presence, why should people listen to you when you talk? Art that skill of that communication, because leaders never talk long. They never write long emails. They're very crisp, brief, and to the T. So one have to art the master of communication in every forum, right? That is how you dominate in the meetings. That is how you influence. And I do these leadership coaching sessions on the navigating skills. I define organizations in multiple ways. So, for given the shortage of time, and that is a book, if you can find, read it, and there are many, many books. We all can really learn from.
No, of course. I just wanted to know what are you reading today, and that's the question I ask almost every guest. So thank you for that, and so the fascinating journey through your own journey, and then the lessons that you could draw and share with us. So thank you very much for that. On behalf of the audience, I am grateful. And to my audience, thank you for staying with us today. And next week, same time, which is Saturday, 21st of September, will be another similar show on, particularly on some demand. Somebody who's grown significantly on LinkedIn to almost 600,000 followers, Priyanka Ahuja, will be the guest. He will share how one can write regularly, consistently, and grow the impact and influence on um, LinkedIn. And 28th is with the founder and MD of Jaipur Rugs. So that will be another interesting session. So some good shows lined up. Sudhir, I hope you can also join.
No,
And
yeah, I will. Thank you for the opportunity, Anshuman. I really enjoyed, and I always tell people for us to manage better, we need to know art of balancing, and ask us
yeah,
how much is too much. Everything we do, ask how much is too much. Art of balancing is the art of living. So I really appreciate again, once again, your passion, and I take a lot of inspiration from you as well and other people. So thank you, and I wish you all the very best,
yeah.
and wish you all the very best to all the audience. And I hope we all are there to learn from each other. So have a
Thanks a
great day.
lot. That's a wonderful thought, and I will end at that. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sudhir. Bye bye.
Thank you.